Toni, I actually saw a post of you today, and I was very curious to know something. You said we must go back to nature. So I'm very curious, what did you actually mean by it? Like, where is that coming from?
That just comes from doing soul work, eating soul food. Even the dogs, you can hear them shouting like, yes, back to nature. I look at the animals, I look around me. What are they doing? They're not rushing, they're not crazy. And when we slow down, we intuitively, we connect back to that guidance system and brings us back to simplicity, back to basics. So I'm leading my life now more with that and trusting where is that taking me? And it's taken me to this path of much more present in my eating, the way I'm living my life, what foods I'm choosing. And it's like, what other foods rather than what Mother Nature gave us? No process, no chemicals, all nature's design. So on this path of self-discovery over 38 years of being on Earth has led me to this clarity and this knowing that that's all we have to do is keep looking back to nature, keep being in the moment, this presence, and going within. And that's all I've been working on, especially Raw Vegan now for 2020 is when I did I was high raw for a long time and I never wanted to be fully raw. I was like, nah, not for me. I like my cooked foods. I was addicted. But I wanted to feel good, and the more days I was eating more raw, living, undenatured foods, I just started to just connect to these foods, these high frequency foods. And now why would I choose anything else? I love the way it makes me feel, the way it makes me look, the way my connections with others, just life. Yeah, that's my guidance system now. That's what I refer to. I just go back to nature.
Yeah, absolutely. Dude, one thing I have to tell you is that you look great. Like, I saw your before picture and now I see you now. On your Instagram, I saw that, and now I see you here, and it's just fabulous. Like, you look fabulous, fantastic right now. So
I feel like in my whole, when I look back, I'm the most at peace and in love with myself than I've ever been in a way that is self-love. I do have my moments. I do have my times where I'm feeling insecure, but not to the level that it used to be. And my drive was different. Before, it was all about restricting calories and overtraining and just this vicious cycle of just restriction, binge eating. In my 20s, I would say that was how my whole life was. It revolved around because I was always in health and well-being, wellness and fitness, and just was so destructive. The patterns just made me miserable, disconnected, and just sad, always sad, never feeling worthy or good enough. And now it's like I choose to do it because I love the way it makes me feel, not in how it makes me look. Obviously, it's a byproduct. I would say that it's the leanest I've been without restricting the calories, without counting calories, being in that weird living. I don't want to live counting. I used to do it. I was so strict with what I was eating and then training excessively and then going full blowout binges for weeks, and it would just, it's so unnecessary suffering when now I know, like, it's what you eat and when you eat. Like, I eat much more intuitively. Satiety sensing I use now, which Ted Carr named it because I was like, oh yeah, that's me knowing. I knew intuitively that what I need to eat, how much to eat, without having to feel like I'm restricting because I ate too much the day before. I never have those thoughts anymore, and that's really liberating for me. It's total freedom of food doesn't run my life anymore, and I now realize there's so many other people locked in that, and most people in these addictions and comfort eating and the binge eating because they want to escape and numb, distract. We all do it to some extent, some more than others, and in a higher level. Like I was definitely had that, restrictive mindset that just made me miserable. It's not a great way to live life. Life is there to be abundant and happy and bliss, experiencing all. But it was my journey, and I want to help others to get back to that peace and harmony within. For you, have you had that addiction? I'm sure you had food addiction.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm so glad that I had that addiction, because now I'm able to create a contrast between what I was and what I am right now. And I can certainly see, without a shadow of a doubt, Toni, I can certainly see how addictive food can be, right? It is this very cheeky, subtle way of addiction, you could call it, where the society it's not like illegal like other drugs, but it also has its own repercussions and consequences, the negative consequences, right? So it's incredible. I was addicted to drugs. This was like 7 years ago. At the same time, I was addicted to alcohol. I was also an addict at the time, with food as well. And it was not pretty. And to be very frank with you, like every day was a complete, it was a way for me to numb myself and not really express my joy and bliss that we are, like our natural self. One thing I've learned over the years and now being on this diet is that our natural self is to be blissed out at all times, right? Like we are meant to be in ecstasy. um we are not meant to
Natural,
be like, yes,
not from the fake stimulants. Yeah.
no, definitely not. Yeah, you're right. So not by taking external chemicals of ecstasy and putting inside of your body, but naturally be able to produce ecstasy within yourself, right? That's a natural self. And it's incredible. It can happen by going within, by listening to your own self, and being wise with your decisions. One thing that I've also come to understand, because before, how I was operating was very much from the standpoint of going external and finding information from the outside, right? So even like counting calories, even like my diet habits and what I was eating, what I was doing, what I was consuming, was very much coming from outside. And if you are somebody who is extracting information from outside, sure, that's information. If you do a lot of that, then you become knowledgeable, right? Any information that comes from outside. But once you step within yourself and you find that information coming from within yourself, then you become wise. That is wisdom. That's not knowledge. Knowledge is what you acquire from outside, right? Wisdom is perhaps what you acquire from the inside. And my whole thing right now is I don't even want to, like, nobody even has to care about listening to us and going raw vegan if one could really start to pay attention to their body before and after food, if they were to have keen attention and observation, and that also comes by stillness. If that happens to people and they become more conscious about this very mechanism, this beautiful piece of technology, they will know instantly what is right food and wrong food, right? Because their wise self would have spoken. So raw vegan is just a consequence of us listening to ourselves. It's not this magical thing.
Yeah, it's a
Intuitive.
tool for us to reconnect.
Yeah.
And there's so much more to it. Like when you start delving deeper into what these foods, like the frequency, the light codes that's in them, these phytonutrients, you realize they're in like sync in with the cells. So it makes sense that you're going to feel lighter, more in alignment. You'll get these downloads that people talk about. Like I was like, how do people channel? How do people, how are they so connected and feel just bliss, like you were sharing, or just in peace and harmony, because that's what we're truly looking for. And raw foods is a tool for us to experience that. It's one of the it's the biggest thing, I would say, for our journey on the path of awakening. You know, I see it's thrown around very heavy right now because we are going through a shift, and I feel it. Things are intense, and we're feeling it probably more now, especially if you're not using food to numb and suppress. You're like, oh my God, it was really strong. Things are really coming up, surfacing. All the old stuff that we thought we've healed is coming back. But yeah, just back to the foods really either will suppress us. They really will hold us back, not just in life, in everyday way of living, but karmatically, spiritually. They really hold us back if they're heavy and toxic and cooked. You know, people are like, oh my gosh, saying cooked food is so polarizing, extreme, but it's so true. When you're changing the chemical structure of something and it's not congruent in your cells, in your body, then it makes sense why we feel so disconnected. If you just want to reconnect, feel the divine, feel this energy that a lot of spiritual gurus talk about, or just this knowing, like not everyone's going to resonate with this, but I feel this more and more. I get so many messages now. Oh my goodness. Like the way now I'm able to express, because it's taken some time to articulate this for myself. The more I'm on this path, the more I'm able to go within, like you say, and it's not from the external, it's the inner standing, and it's coming from the eternal, the source that's within. It's easier now to express that, and more others are receiving it. And there's so many more that are, and even friends that are just, they are having these deeper conversations, and it's really like, it's exciting. I'm getting, even now I get, like, because there's periods where you go through, it's very, because this lifestyle's very different. It's an extreme to some people. But now we're seeing others like yourself, when there's like others, more of us that are just on the similar path. It gives me goosebumps. You know, I get really excited because it's so deep. It's more than the food. Like people are like, you know, that's why I don't just do recipes. It's not even about recipes. It's so much more, and I want to really share more of this connection, this realignment to who we really are, and that's what I'm bringing up over to now in my content.
Yeah. You have some awesome content for sure. Very vibrant and very informative, definitely. Do you want to go ahead and share a bit, Toni, about how you made this transition and what happened in your life that made you go like, this is it, raw vegan is it?
Well, part of my journey and everyone's journey is if you're conscious, if you're moving through life with intention. And I started a meditation practice when I went on the path of veganism. That opened up more of the truth seeker inside me. I've always been from 16 a wanderlust. I'd travelled. I want to see other people's lifestyles. I left home at 16, never really gone back properly, and just wanted to travel the world to see not just what the world, but the connections I could have and the people I meet. And I've met so many incredible people. So it really started from me leaving the nest, leaving my home. I felt very restrictive. My small city that I was from, very small but overpopulated and deprived. And I didn't realize the extent of it until I left, and how restrictive and lack of opportunities. No wonder I wanted to escape. My soul was just not belonging there. And on this journey, Hull in Yorkshire, northeast of England.
Got it.
Not many people know the city, but I've got some incredible friends there and family. But I've been back once in 7 years. But even since I've left, I've never, like 16, I didn't. I've left. I was I pretty much was traveling from the age of 21 out of the country, but from 16 I left home and started my own path and wanted to seek. I always called it. I called like I had a void, so I was searching for the void. And I've always had an affinity for animals, so everywhere I go, I volunteer at shelters, mainly dog rescues, but I've done various projects working with animals in rescue. And I felt called to help them in some way. So, long story short, I actually went vegan in 2010, but 2012 was when I really saw, because I started to speak at universities. I studied animal science. I thought I was going to be a vet. And then I didn't want to be a vet. I had this free spirit inside me and just wanted to still travel. So when I went travel and I met a fruitarian in 2010, and he actually set me on the path of, and I met him at an animal rescue, a dog shelter here in Thailand, in Phuket. And he was fruitarian. And I've never met a fruitarian, never met anybody that was really vegan at the time, back then, like 13 years ago. Vegans were very rare. Fruitarian, I was like, fruitarian, what? I was curious because he brought in, we was all sat around the lunch table and we were talking about the dog meat trade and how barbaric, and I was shocked with that. I was like, they eat dogs? I was like, and cats? I was so traumatized, and I cried a lot through that process when I started to witness, and even in Thailand. I mean, the organization I was volunteering with were helping stopping this trade, and it was mainly in Vietnam and Cambodia, and I was like, I can't believe they eat dogs and cats. And when we were talking about it at this table, I just remember this clear as day. He was like, well, there's no difference to you eating cows and the chickens, and we were all eating rice and chicken at the table, and he was eating his 10 bananas. So everyone else was just like, you could see like it was a divide, like they were just not interested and they didn't even know what to say. I remember being just quiet for about, it seemed like forever, and I went, you're right, yeah. Like it just clicked for me. It just was like, it's exactly the same thing, but none of them did. And I became best friends, and he's still my really good friend to this day, James.
Nice.
And I was mesmerized in his lifestyle, and he's been fruitarian since. And he's the one who's kept me on this path, I would say. Having this mentor, like, has been, for me, because I'd gone back to England, he stayed here, but he would always send me information. And that's when it really inspired me. Okay, so I was going more and more raw. And then it was in 2020. I always said to him, I'll never be fully raw, James. Not my path. Definitely not fruitarian. Or like, I was doing my best. I was eating 10 banana smoothies, still do at times. And I was enjoying those in England, but I enjoyed my cooked dinner. So I enjoyed the raw until dinner lifestyle. And that's a really great transitional diet, help others, and that was working, or felt like it was working for me. I still had some like my menstrual cycle was always heavy, but the lighter foods I was eating, the more to nature undenatured foods I was having, I was noticing a pattern, because I was tracking my menstrual cycle for many years, because it was my ex that said, just track that your menstrual, because I used to think it was just who I was, when I used to doubt myself, insecurities, just more emotional depression and anxiety was only coming up in my menstrual cycle. But I thought that was me all the time, but it wasn't. It was only like, well, it was like 1 to 2 weeks of the month, at times 2 weeks. So it was getting less and less when I was vegan. But when I was going more raw, it was like no cramps, no bloating, no headaches, and then none of this emotional imbalance. And then when I did the cleanse, I went through a breakup in 2000. We were together 6 years, and in 2020, instead of being in fear with the rest of the world for what was happening and going through a breakup, because I was supposed to be leaving Thailand, I'd been here every year for 7 years, and every year I kept saying, I'm going to leave, I'm going to go Central and South America, that's my next dream. And I finally booked the tickets. It's interesting. I finally booked the tickets, and then my ticket got cancelled because of what had happened in May
Right.
2020. And I was just devastated because I finally decided to leave. And I
Oh
even
no.
we moved house just at my friend's place for the last month. And it was in that month that it got all cancelled. And I was like, and we were rocky, the partnership and I. So so that year was so intense. Not I went through a really quite I would say depression. Like I then started to binge eat, and
Mm.
because I was raw until dinner, and I was doing more raw days. I was quite high up there on my raw days, and feeling good, noticing the difference. But after all that, I was using food again as a way to just numb out and escape. So break up, not going to where I wanted to leave, and then having not much money coming financial. I had financial issues, and then we say go for the breakup. I was so scared I was going to speed stuff up. Right, I know what raw foods and I know what juice cleansing can offer, and I needed a good clear out because I was binging
Mm.
right up to that point excessively, to the point where I was back in my old days years before. I haven't actually shared that I went through a period in 2020 that was bad, but the end of 2020, I decided to do the juice cleanse, 40 days juice cleanse, changed my life. That's when I was like, I am not going
Wow.
back to cooked. That's when I would say I really got the download of where I was supposed to go, where my calling
Mm.
was. And I let go of that because I was still holding on to the relationship. I actually did no contact, which I don't normally do, but I had to do it. And everything that I chose to do looking back was so good for the soul, in the way I moved, the way I was choosing my days, what I was doing. And I was becoming much more present and just in alignment. So I knew there was this something special in fruits and juicing. So I did that, and it transformed. And then that was when I started to share this message. And end of 2020 is where I really committed. This is where I'm supposed to be. And if I ever get any slight, I just come back to the lighter foods, the fruits. Fruits for me is
Yeah.
it. I still there's salads and heavy nuts and seeds at times and gourmet desserts, and I do enjoy them because I'm all about sustainability and all about. But as long as I'm intentional, why I'm doing something, there's a total different outlook on it. I'm much more present in the way I eat and what I choose. It's really liberating. So to know that I've come out the other side for these addictions, oh, and just really feeling my pain. And I know that's getting thrown around a lot, but it really is. Feeling is healing for us. We have to feel. We can't keep suppressing and holding on to the past and looking at the future. All we have is now and being here. And I live my life now much more present, much more mindful, conscious. And that's what I'm seeing, how we can evolve and our hearts expand in a much deeper, the connection to myself really has really uh, totally transformed my life. It's like I need less. I don't drink alcohol. I've not drunk alcohol for over 30. When I went
Yeah.
vegan, no alcohol, never smoked. But the addictions were always food for me. And now I can feel it when I want to, like my default. Sometimes I'm like, hold on, what we're going to choose, what's for the higher self now. It's much more empowering. And this is where I feel life is really starting to take to take off, where I feel much more in tune with my whole process of discovering who I really am and what Toni needs, what's her needs,
Yeah.
what's I can express them. Whereas before I used to just be cold, and when I didn't want to face the world, I would hibernate and eat and stuff my face. And now it's more, is that in the best? It's much more conscious. There's lots of ways
Yeah.
I share a lot. Quite one thing I do is share a lot of my vulnerability. It's scary at times and something I never uh, thought I would do, because I always wanted to promote this positivity. Because when you're depressed, you kind of want to do the law of attraction, law of vibration. Whereas I realize now you're just depressing, and people are seeing it, especially now. People want to see that realness, see what you're overcoming. And even now, I still have challenges. I'm not, I'm not immune to any of them. There's definitely things going on in my own life where it's like, but it's not using the food anymore. That's the difference, and that's what I want to help others with. And it's so much more. Like when you overcome that, wow, the next phase, or the processing that they're just things you overcome. Like it gets deep, but it's incredible, and it's a very fulfilling way to live, rather than blocking, holding ourselves back. Really getting to our root cause of what's holding us back in life. There's food. Food's the biggest one, because it's so easy, like you were saying earlier. It's the easy, like drugs and alcohol. We all know, most people know they know it's toxic. They know it's not, even though they take it. But food, there's still a lot of arguments with what we're eating, and when you say cooked food, people are just like crazy. But I feel now, when people just take cooked food away from your diet, look how the addiction amplifies. You're like, they get detox symptoms to the extreme. Some people really get angry, or really frustrated, or really sad because they're not eating their comfort foods anymore, those cooked foods, those heavy laden foods, and then they have to feel their feelings now. Culturally, there's a lot of cultural challenges with that, and there's so much more. But yeah, that's actually a long way of my story, but it's definitely, you look back, there's reasons why we go through what we go through. It's you must have had a similar, how did you get to this? You're fruitarian 5 months now. Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah, for sure.
Did you go cold vegan turkey? Did you literally go from standard, or was it a journey?
How did I stumble upon raw vegan? Right. So, okay. Have you been to Central or South America, by the way, yet, or it didn't happen?
I went to Mexico once, and that's it. I want to go explore. Have you?
Yes. So this was when I was actually in Colombia, in South America. Right. So this was about 5 months ago, and I was in Colombia for 2 months, and I was staying in this secluded area deep in the jungles of Colombia. And by the way, for me, in my perception, my experience, Colombia was the greenest country I have been to. I've been to Mexico, I've been to India. India is also very tropical, and been to Mexico as well, been to Guatemala, been to many places. And I have never seen this green. Even Sri Lanka wasn't this green. Colombia is truly green, and it makes sense why. Maybe because it's just, and the area that I was in was just beside Brazil, so this was like the Amazon of Colombia, like the Amazon forest, but from the Colombian side. So it was magnificently green. Really, what a fabulous place. And it's so tropical there, so it's like fruits and vegetables, like food just coming out of from everywhere, right? Really magical. So I went there, and I was staying in this place, a traveler hostel kind of thing, but very big, and deep in the jungles. Even for basic necessities, fruits, vegetables, whatever, you need to walk 30-40 minutes, and you get fresh fruits and vegetables grown by the local farmers there. So it was really heavenly, very, very magnificent. And before this, Toni, I was mostly vegetarian, but also I was known for, I always had a great skill with barbecuing things. So I was great at barbecuing, sometimes, occasionally, once in 2 weeks or 3 weeks, a great steak or something. I love barbecuing. I still do, right? I still might indulge myself once a week in just vegetarian, no more meat. I've completely cut out meat now, but just vegetarian barbecue, right? Just for the thrill of it. So before this experience, before going to that place, I was mostly vegetarian. and occasionally meat, like I said. And before this, I was also like meditating big into being conscious, big about going within myself and being more present in the moment, and all of the spiritual ways of going about life, right? And 1 week passed, 10 days passed, where I was staying over there for a month in that area. And suddenly one day I woke up, Tony, and I felt like just sitting by just under this tree. And there was this magnificent tree over there. So something in me, an inner voice was like, go and just spend your time over there. So I did, right? And in that moment, I felt so connected, so in tune, so centered, so aligned. It was magical. And my whole being was completely blissed out. And don't get me wrong, I've had many sessions like this all by myself in nature before in other parts of the world. But this was odd and weird enough because I wasn't just spending 10, 15 minutes. I spent hours, hours, no phones with me, no technology, and literally had that moment, right? And like I said, before this, I was eating anything and everything vegetarian, mostly vegan, but also vegetarian. And so that happened that day. And then I went back and I was not really socializing. I love socializing. I'm usually a very social, I'm still a social person. But in that moment, I didn't really feel like socializing, no technology, nothing. Next day, I wake up, I feel the same. I spend hours all by myself, just under the tree. And in that moment, I didn't know what was going on, but I was just downloading things in the moment. I was just downloading. And my whole reality, my whole perception was slowly changing in front of me. And I couldn't understand, I couldn't make sense of it. And that happened for a week. So for like 5, 6 days, I was just constantly doing that. There was another traveler who just came, sat beside me, and she looked at me and she was like, wow, you're so happy. Because literally, I was so blissed out, so blissed out. And by the end of the week, following up, I just knew that fruit is the right food for your body, like for me, right? And I just couldn't understand why I'm getting this inner voice, but it was so strong that I just couldn't ignore. And then I walked into the communal kitchen that there was over there, and I was seeing what people were doing, spending hours trying to cook something. And I was doing that like just a week before myself. But suddenly I was like, this doesn't make sense. Like they're making simple things complicated. And that day, I literally cut open a watermelon and had a watermelon all by myself with a spoon and a watermelon. And I was like, shouldn't this be the ultimate truth? So, like, everything was connecting, all the dots were connecting, right? The inner voice was connecting with all the things that I learned so far. And I could clearly see how my perception for things were changing. And in that moment, I just knew that simplicity is the ultimate truth. The more simple you make something, the more intelligent it is. So I fully understood that intelligence is not making simple things complicated. Not at all, right? Intelligence is making complicated things simple, easy to be understood, easy to be digested, easy to be done with, right? And I was like, fruits is the ultimate simplicity and ultimate truth for myself. And and then I kept doing that, and I kept eating raw, and I kept eating only fruits, and I was perfectly fine. I was feeling even more blissed out. I was fully blissed out, and now I could see these things, these foods, making me even more blissed out. And at that time, Tony, I didn't know anybody who was raw vegan or fruitarian. None. I didn't even know something like this existed. And
Yeah.
my egoistic
Wow.
self, this is funny because my egoistic self in that moment was like, do you think, am I the only one doing this? Do you think there are anybody on this planet who eat fruit only? Because I didn't know anything, right? This was so new to me and it just came from within.
Wow.
Then I researched and I got to know a whole community. There's a whole wide world of raw
Yes.
vegans and fruitarians on this planet. And I was like, this is incredible. And most of them, and I fully understood why most of them were so conscious, spoke so much about consciousness, spoke so much about life and just the truth and all of that, because most of these guys were truth seeker just like me. right? I have always been a truth seeker. Anybody who just came and told me, Fahad, you should do this, you should do that, I always had a question why. Like I wanted more to it, right? So this time under this tree in Colombia, I fully got an opportunity to spend time with my very force of life, right? I truly believe that this body is not ours. I mean, this body is ours, but is not us, right? What is us is the very force of life, which is like what we call the wind, what we call the gravity, what makes the earth rotate, what makes the earth revolve around the sun, what makes the stars shine. That is me. That is the force of life that throbs within this body. This body is here to serve the force of life within me. It's not the other way around, right? This force of life is not here to serve this body. And this body, Toni, is just an accumulation of all the food that I've eaten all these years. The very food that we eat is just the collection of everything. And the collection of food is what this body is, and is what makes the very nails, the very fingers, the hair, the brain, right? So something in us already lives in here that can turn food into this. And that's incredible. Um, so yeah, that's essentially how I came to know about raw veganism, fruitarian, and since then, something in me was fully able to be 100% clear on what is my food and what is not my food, because I was able to easily be able to create that little distance between me, the force of life, and my body. And when I had this distance, I was 100% clear that fruit is the best fuel that I can put. Sure, other things are food as well. Like we can definitely make anything. We could make shark, what do you call the fins? The shark fins into food, right? We have that intelligence in us that could create anything into food, sure. But if you were to looking for your right, true food, that has to be fruit. Because
And it's not
why I
food,
say
is
it
it?
has to be.
I wouldn't even call it food. Other animals, it's not. When you look at the sickness and you look at all the toxicity, it's not even food. Like I now disconnect from any other thing that is not whole and intact. It's not food.
Hmm. Sure. I think it depends on how one would define food, how I see it, right? If you define food as the premium superior fuel for your body, then it has to be fruit and most of the raw things, right? But some people might just see food as something that they could eat and not throw up, right? So definitely everything else is food in that context. But if one were to be conscious and to be true to themselves and look for that true food that is going to make them superior to everything else, then it is the fruit, right?
Stop
And
there.
yeah, and it's incredible. So that's essentially how I came and stumbled upon fruit, and I have no desires to going back. Sure, I do indulge myself once a week, sometimes even twice a week, twice a meal a week, because I live with my family, and on Fridays when it's like sort of a holy day in the lunchtime, it's all vegan. There is no question about it, but it's cooked because my mom, my dad, we just want to spend time together. Sure, so I fully understand that, but um, like I said, something in me clicks so strongly that I just know that raw food will be the dominant way of how I eat for years to come. So, Toni, is Thailand where you live now?
For the last 7 years, and
Wow.
now decided this is my base. You never know what's going to happen, but I don't feel the call to actually move fully. But I still want to go and visit Central and South America. And yeah, I hear about Colombia,
You
and
should.
there's so many. Like I want to go play the Cana in Mexico and Costa Rica. I was toying between Mexico and Costa Rica, and I never had a set destination, but I was going to do a bit of traveling around. But now I think I'll just do like a few months maybe in the next year or
Mm.
two. But we've just set up we're doing retreats now, mini retreats, only individual, just to explore this at the moment. So we're going to see in the next year or two if I just feel very settled for the first time in my life. Like always had this travel in me. Like I've left home at
Mm.
16. It's the first time. It's probably the longest, apart from England up until 16. But it's the longest place I've stayed in overseas for such a long length of time, and it's my home. But you know what? I really enjoyed it. I really embraced when the world was closed. I loved Phuket. Have you been to Phuket in Thailand?
I
Have you
haven't been to
been?
Thailand yet. No.
Oh, you must when you come and visit. But oh, it's a very yeah, it's a beautiful magical place. But
Mm.
I felt the call to leave. I was ready when I thought the universe. I was like, I'm ready. I'm gonna go. Book them tickets. So excited. I had loads of plans, and then it totally changed. But I so grateful that I was here in that time because we had
Mm.
very little restrictions and it was quiet. It was so
Mm.
peaceful. And now
Wow.
it's opened up now. It's absolutely chaos. I've actually had to move because the area that I was living in was very fairly quiet. Um,
Mm.
but now it's just they're really making it more touristy. So it's just it's mental now. So I've just moved on the outskirts of the main area, and it's nice. It's nice and it's accessible, but it's still fairly quiet where I am. But I'm curious to know for you then. So you went to Colombia for 1 month. Did you go to anywhere else? Did you just stay? Is that the only place you went in Central
So I was in Colombia for 2 months.
or two?
However, in that forest or the traveler hostel, the big secluded area, I was there for a month. So that's where all of this realization happened. However, I was in Mexico for 5 months, and even before this, don't get me
Oh,
wrong, like I was like on my top level fitness, right? I could outrun people even before this died. So I didn't have any sort of a need mentally, physically, spiritually to get into it. However, I could just feel that even with that, where I was representing a Mexican team while I was in Mexico City for 5 months for Ultimate Frisbee. I play Ultimate Frisbee. It's just like
oh
football,
wow.
but instead of a ball,
Yeah.
it's a frisbee. So I was huge into fitness already, but now it's on a whole another plane of consciousness and physical
Yeah.
aesthetic performance, right? It's
Yeah.
just incredible. And I was in Guatemala as well. I love Guatemala.
Wow. Amazing. Yeah. So you're gonna go
Yeah.
back? You feel like you've got that travel? Do you feel like you'll stay where you are for a while or go back?
Mm, I'll be frank. So I actually traveled nonstop for a year and a half, even
Oh,
slightly more. Starting from Dubai, and then I was in the Himalayas of India, and then I was in south of Europe, like the Balkans, and then over there. And just like you, for the very first time, I feel that I need to stay put. I feel so
yeah.
settled now. I'm staying with my family here in Saudi Arabia, and I am on this project, this mission to raise consciousness in the world. Because if people were to raise a bit of consciousness just by being more natural, like you said, by being more closer to nature, like food, when it comes to food, like I'm sure you would agree, Tony, like food is a very big step to being your natural self, right? But there are so many other small steps that one could take from affluent societies these days that people are in. Like most of the things that we do are unnatural, right? Just from the morning, waking up to an alarm is unnatural. The very way we sleep is unnatural, right? We sleep like almost half midnight or whatever, like, quite late. We should be probably sleeping right after sunset or maybe an hour or two max after sunset, right? When it actually gets dark. But we have built these unnatural artificial lights that make us nocturnal. But we are not nocturnal at all. Like our eyes cannot see in the dark. So like making these small steps, now I no more wake up to an alarm, right? So and bringing more stillness to, this is huge, bringing more stillness to one being, and being able to dive in the universe within, rather than looking for that universe and trying to explore the universe outside, right? And there are so many other things that one could do, and then finally they might just transcend to a very higher plane of consciousness, which keeps them consistent to being on this fruit diet or the raw diet, right?
But it supports it. It
So
makes
like you
it
said,
much more easy.
yeah, being more closer to nature. So one could just do this. I was actually very curious to ask you this, Toni. So you're in Thailand, and I'm sure in Thailand, like Southeast Asia, it's one of the most magnificent places on the planet to acquire food, I mean, fruit. And also, there are so many raw restaurants, raw vegan restaurants, right? I've heard. But for somebody that is closer to where you are from, like, the Northern Europe, and I'm sure you're also like creating content to bring that awareness to that part of the world. What kind of strategy that you suggest or recommend for them, because it's not as easy as it is in Thailand, right? I was curious to know.
What I found though, we can constantly find excuses. It's something I've really delved into, what is excuses and what, because even when I was out here, I was still using excuses. I was not fully raw
Mm,
fruitarian. Oh no, I like my cooked meal at the end of the day. It's all these comforts and what's familiar. If we do the work and work on these addictions, it's freeing.
mm,
It doesn't hold you back anymore. When you break free of, it doesn't have to happen overnight. I know deep down now I could easily go back to England. Oh, I choose not to because of the lifestyle as a whole. um, Personally, for me, it's not congruent. Tropics are for me. I was destined for the tropics. But
mm,
I could be fruitarian. I could be raw vegan. I'd make it work.
mm,
It has to be because of how I feel. It's not until you're fully convicted and embrace you'll start. So that's why I started to seek out those that are making it work. How? Because I can't say, because I'm not in the cold climate. I was high raw many days. I would go 2, 3 days. I was probably towards the end of that journey, 4 days raw until dinner, and then I would have fully raw days. Um, Obviously, I know when we have these restrictions, we feel, oh, but it's so cold. Why would you have something cold? So I do share practical tips, but I also share, let's get to the root of that restriction,
mm.
that belief. It's all about beliefs. I'm super passionate about the psyche and beliefs. My work really is going more towards the psyche, doing the psychology,
Yeah.
the deep work, the
Yes.
beliefs. So I've just put myself on a course to be like a facilitator in beliefs. It's I'm still working through exactly how I'm going to, because it's a lot of my work on top of somebody that's training me. But I'm also going to be doing ceremonies here as well to help release and doing breath work. And there's lots of tools. But
Mm,
I'm back to like you. I've just looked to nature. What would we do in nature? Simplicity. So I'm always thinking, how can I entwine that into make it so accessible and simple for others? So
mm.
practically, if we're on this subject, it's like just use like the Vitamix, the blenders. I mean, the Vitamix is amazing. I brought mine from England because it's that incredible. It's been going for 9 years. So worth it. I use it every single day for everything. Frozen bananas, it's still, the blades are still strong. Worth the investment. But you can blend.
Mm.
Like things can be heated up. Like I can do mangoes in them, bananas, and make warm, like it's like a custard. And I can put them over
Yeah.
some blueberries. It's warm. So if you want in that warm feeling, there's substitutes we can do. Like have warm water, lemon water. Move your body if you're cold. Don't have these frozen smoothies for frozen ice creams and things like that. If it's really, because for me, I was really cold. Like I had Raynaud's when I was in England. I had poor circulation. Um, but I
Mm,
was always freezing, even in like just because you only get about a month or two sprinkled in the ear that it was warm in England northeast. So I realized the excuses was it's strong for most people. Like it's an excuse if you really want to embody this lifestyle, and it's so worth it. But you know, it doesn't have to happen overnight. But work on the addictions. Like the end of the day for me was having the cooked food, because I knew then it was a form of escape. Like I'd use the hot nut because it was it felt like it was nourishing me. It felt like it was soothing my hard day, my stressful day. You know, like some people have a beer or a glass of wine. I was using like pastas, starches, you know, really heavy foods at the end of the day. When I stopped doing that, I actually realized when I was sitting in my pain at the time, I was like, I am miserable. I'm not happy being here. So once you've got that awareness, that's where we can start to rewire, start to work on our needs. What do we need? Are you not expressing yourself in the way that you could? Is it you don't even want to be in that environment? Is it that's the main step, the first step. When you figure out that, it's like, okay, the universe then starts opening up opportunities for you. You know, you start to, Kelsey says, our mind can only measure what we lose, but you can't measure what you will gain. And I was like, when I started closing like doors and like taking up, like when I didn't use that food at the end of the day after a hard day's work, I started to have more opportunities, started to see, okay, I can do, so yeah, in the interim, you can do these practical tips, tools, but let's get deeper. Let's do the deep work. Let's see why. If we've got a hold on, so if something's holding us, got this attachment, it's something we've got to let go. And I quickly caught on to that when I started to do it here, because there was no excuse. I was like, even when I came out to town, I was like, I'm still not going to be fully raw, even fruitarian, even though I liked the idea of it. And then I was doing some more raw days, and then I was like, but why are you not doing it? And then it wasn't until the juice cleanse, I already knew that I was using food still to distract myself or to numb, and it's comfort. I didn't want that disempowerment anymore. In order for me to expand, I just knew like I needed to let go. And because it didn't just start, you'd start eating the cooked food, and then it was a way for me, and I see with my clients and others, then what other addictions have you got? What other things are holding us back? And it's a great eye-opener to see how we hold on to these addictions and so strong, you know, like look at the culture, like socially, we always think, oh, we're not going to be, you know, we're going to be different. We can't go out with friends. Why can't you? Just because you're not eating the way they're eating? Do we have to eat the food? So I used to always reframe. There's a technique called reframing, which I teach. And it's just different perspective. Like, okay, let's look at what's the opportunity here. Why, if I don't eat with them, what can I focus on instead? Can I bring my own food, or do I eat something different? Or do I focus on connection? Do I focus on who's in the room? Who can I really connect with? You know, it was an opportunity for me to see other ways instead of involving food. So I just always reframe in what I'm going through to see where the highs can come from me. So if you can really, like the conscious, if you can really connect to that, this big shifts happen.
Yeah, powerful. Yeah, again, it comes back to, like you said, being conscious, being able to create that distance between you and your mind, right? Your mind is coming up with all of these excuses. Your mind is coming up with these ways of telling you, oh no, this can't happen, this can't. But if you have that distance and understand that your mind is just coming up, like I said, with excuses, you can actually handle that in a much more conscious way. And very importantly, not beat your mind up or beat yourself up, right? And be like, you always tell me this. No, you're wrong. No, no, no. I fully get what you're saying, but no, you can still go out with your friends and still have an absolutely fantastic time. Like many times, my family, when I'm staying with my family, now that I'm staying with my family, they go out to have, pizza, or to have, sometimes once a week junk food, and I go with them. But I have my own little box of fruits, right? So I can, and I totally enjoy. They, in the beginning, was a bit awkward for them, but now we are completely habitual to each other, and we fully understand each other, and we fully appreciate each other, because now we know we love ourselves for the time and presence, not because we eat the same thing. That's not love, right? We love ourselves because we love being together with ourselves. So I got to know the true family members, the true friends, with this diet as well. Like all the truth is coming out, not just from the
Yeah.
inside, but from the outside world as well, which is very, very interesting.
I was going to
And
ask you
like you
about your
said,
family, what they thought of you. Like, have they had any resistance? I wanted to ask you that.
oh yes, absolutely. Because
Ah,
one thing, they they already had a bit of resistance years ago when I told them that I'll be consuming less meat. Like just less meat was such a big resistance, because I come from like our culture is very Indian, but also very, very, very Arab, very Saudi, right? So like my parents have been here for forever now, and they truly love, and they have completely blended with the Saudi culture. And in the Saudi culture, we spend time together on the dinner table or the lunch table. That is something super important. But also we are heavy meat eaters, right? We love our meat. So just having less meat, I remember how much it disappointed my mother. And now, after years that I came and told them that I'm going to have only fruit, for sure, they had heaps of resistance. However, they have taken this change very nicely, because I can see that they want me to eat a bit of meat. They want me to have food that, like the way they have, but they also understand, and now they're observing. And something incredible that's happening, Toni, is that for the very first time, my family is having, like my brother, my mom and dad are having fruit for dinner. Can you believe that? They've been having just fruit for dinner.
this is when
Yeah.
you're embodied with it, with no judgment. I think, like say, you
Yes.
can you be the inspiration. Amazing, yeah.
Yeah. I'm
That's
so happy.
encouraging, isn't it? Yes.
It is. And I haven't been forcing them. I haven't been preaching. They're observing, obviously, because we live together.
Yeah.
So they're observing. I'm their child. So they're seeing the tenfold, the 20-fold more energy in me, first of all, to begin with. Right. And the clarity of mind that I'm having, the way I'm making my decisions, the way I'm carrying myself, they are seeing that, they're observing that, and they can see that. And my skin has gotten a lot better, my whole physique has gotten a lot better, so they can see that. And now obviously they also, like, which organism does not want to better themselves if they were to understand the strategy to truly better themselves, right? So yeah, I'm very happy to
Yeah,
see that
your
transition. Sure.
family, you don't, with your family, you don't really want to. I find the friends and family are the hardest, but if you don't make them feel, yeah, judged, just do
Yeah.
your thing. Naturally, it will, like your energy, the highest energy, whatever you're most convicted in, will shine through. And that's the way I noticed within, I would say, my own friends and family. But online, I'm like, no, you've got to do it. You got to, you have to. I'm so passionate about this lifestyle. I want to help others, but your
Yeah.
friends and family, they come in their own time. They're definitely the hardest. I've seen lots of others really get upset about their family, and it causes a lot of pain and trauma if you
Mm.
yeah if you battle against with them. Just let that, you got to let that go and let them come in their own time, because it didn't happen for us overnight. It took us some time.
Yeah.
to even get to this point. You know, it's everyone's at their different stages on this journey.
Absolutely. And no matter how much we go out there and tell, even Toni, we do understand that there will still be a lot of people that will never get our message, right? And some of them could be our own family and friends as well. So I fully understand that, like you said, and it took us time as well to get there. And I fully understand, like, sometimes we want them to change right away, and that is more so of from coming from a greedy standpoint than anything else. Because I do want certain situations, I'll be very honest, certain situations I want to tell them, oh my God, what you're having right now is a disaster, right? But I keep myself grounded and not show it out there that way, because yeah, just being there and rubbing off the energy, they'll get it by their own time.
Yeah, when you're convicted, it's a given. When you embody it totally, it's like people now say to me, how do you get so much resistance? I don't see the resistance anymore. It's like I feel nobody really has any negativity towards it. That's what I see now, more of the positivity, and more like I see a different world now, and that's the vibration I love being in. Like doing the work on myself and sharing that and the lightness, that's all you're going to see, you know. So when you really commit, and that takes time, it doesn't happen overnight. I've had some of my questionings and doubts, but you can't get to that place until you've fully experienced it, until yourself, and then just just share, lead by example.
Yeah, absolutely. And one project that I'm wanting to work on, and I'm opening, and sharing this online as much as possible, is I truly believe that it is just impossible to address the situation of mental health in the world without addressing diets. Right? Something that you brought up just a few minutes ago, talking about how miserable people are. I was miserable eating McDonald's. Like, I could I fully understand that. And let's be very honest, right? Like, never before in the history of mankind have we ever had such a very fantastic organized way of survival. Right? Like, our survival has been the most organized it has ever been, the most easiest it has ever been. Like, I was in India, and just in the country of India, in the major cities of India, you get food and fruits delivered in literally 5 minutes. They say 5 minutes, and it's delivered in 5 minutes in a city called Bangalore. I was there with my friends, and I was absolutely surprised that we have come to a point in time where you can literally order food and have it delivered in 5 minutes, right? So imagine the ease and the ease and the joy of having your survival set up in such a beautiful way. So we have worked for so many years now as a society to come to this point where we thought that this is going to make us truly happy and is going to keep us joyful. Yet we have the most unjoyful generation of all times. Right? So it baffled me, because not to just like raise fingers on one part of the world and not the other, but it really made me crazy when I read this, that 40% of Europe is on some sort of a mental psychiatry medicine. It's incredible, right? Like 2 out of 3 people in America are lonely. What is going on? Like, these countries are the most abundant in the world right now, and should have the best possible, blooming with energy, full of life people. Yet it's the opposite, right? So I fully believe that the more you run away from nature, right? Sure, we have got our survival intact. That's fantastic, right? At the cost of many species and animals on the planet, right? The very thing that I am sitting on right now, the very desk that I have right now, came at a cost of a tree. or came at a cost of so many animals that lost their habitat, right? We did all of this and still we are not happy, right? So, so one thing I've truly understood being on this diet is that the more and more slowly but surely that you can come, or you can work on coming closer to nature and not run so far from nature, is going to truly make you that blissed out, that joyful. And if you were to come on a plane of consciousness where the very thing that you put inside of your body is natural to who you are, to how you've been designed, then it's inevitable to be just ecstatic in complete ecstasy. What do you think?
100%. Obviously,
Tony?
you are what you eat. You are what you eat. That's the first thing. If we can really work, that's why I work on the food. Because it's our makeup. It becomes who we are, our DNA. These heavy laden, dead. Like I even talk about the dead animals. Like these were beings, energetic beings that suffered, and a lot of them they're coming from an environment that is pure pain and suffering, not living their lives like they should, and then they get killed. No way can that be humane. It's death, the way it's slaughtered.
Yeah.
So we're taking on their adrenaline. So we just start from there. Like already, if you go vegan and at least whole foods, you're going to see a lift automatically, because you're not feeding your cells with these dead beings, this adrenaline, this energy. So let's get the light codes in. That's going to help lift your mood just to a level, because what we end up doing is if we keep suppressing and keep holding us down with these addictions, because it's all too consuming the world, when it feels even more heavy when you're eating these foods. Never mind having to deal with just life in itself. Like we're overstimulated. We've got, like you said, it's so easy now. We've got so many choices. If we come back to simplicity, I always remember Steve Jobs just saying about he wears the same clothes like every single day, pretty much. He has the same 2 t-shirts or a few shorts. And I got to that point where I was just very minimal, especially as when you travel. Isn't it light when you have less? The amount of time you have to then invest in yourself. And this is why I feel I've got much more presence in my life, because I can let go of a lot. Nothing. It doesn't hold me like most people. Like people won't take risks. They don't even want to travel and leave their job. They're so frightened. They don't listen to their internal guidance, which is blocked by these heavy foods. So that's just the start. But when you've got overstimulated world, you get trapped in it. You get trapped in that survival drift, as I call it. You're just swaying. You're not conscious, and there is a separation. There is a divide now. I'm seeing if we don't start working on this the consciousness, if they're listening to things like this, you're already going towards the path of peace and serenity, and really having a life that is more in alignment. Because if we hold on to these addictions and hold on to this old world, we are going to be left behind in a way that is going to be in suffering. We will continue to suffer. And the only way that we can lighten that heaviness is to choose the lighter foods, choose the light codes, be intentional, be more intentional throughout your day. And the way the easiest way to do that is just look into nature. When you're sick, just to bring it down to basics, when we're sick, fast. That's what animals do. They fast. When I get any little niggle of sniffles or swollen glands, I water fast for 24 hours. If it needs a little longer, 48 hours. It's usually cleared up.
That's what babies do as well.
Yeah, listen, and that's and the fasting now for me I intermittent fast now because I always like to look at. I don't want to do quick fixes anymore. I don't want this instant gratification because I know it's what creates suffering. In this instant, this is what the foods are doing. Even before we have it, we get that anticipation of the excitement. Everything's aroused, and if you could be aware of that and knowing that, okay, it's not about. They did so many studies on children when they were younger. If you could delay the gratification, they're usually the happiest. And usually the ones that are more like, I definitely wasn't one of those. I was like, I want it and I want it now, impatience.
Yeah.
Like they did the test with the marshmallows with the children. They said if they just give one marshmallow, and if you not eat that for 10 minutes or whatever the experiment, there's many different types of experiments like this. I'm going to give you either 2 more or triple that. So if you wait just 10 minutes, I was not one of those children. I was like, I'm taking it. I'm taking that. And if we can just delay, so like any choice that we need to make, if we can, this is what raw foods give you that edge, because we're in no rush to get something. It's like, it's so much more like the hunger. We know what true hunger is. There's so much more. There's so many layers to this. And I know I'm going off on one here, but I find it fascinating. But if we could just bring it back down to less choices, less variety on a plate in the physical aspect for our digestion, even for the mind, like less stimulating foods, less like all this crazy, what goes off, all these chemicals that are going off, the more we're going to feel calm. And it's neutral. You're living your life much more neutral. Instead of these highs and the lows, that's the place of bliss. And that's what we're all seeking, really. That is that truth. That is that total serenity. And and it's even for me, I still notice that the highs and the lows, but never as what I used to be. And this is the path of discovering much more than, seeking these instant things that we feel are gonna make us happy when they don't. You see all over all these wealthy, like if you can have it the other way around, if you can have, like I've always moved through with passion, and as long as I'm loving something, like I'd rather have nothing and rather have less than do something I don't enjoy that isn't my soul true expression. Now it's time, okay, let's get to the next level now, because I know what wealth can do. I have no aversion to money like I used to, the beliefs I have. Now it's much more, how can I serve more? How can I put myself out there in a way that is received as love? It's a different, I move differently. And it's a beautiful place. Like I see the vision now. I see the bigger picture. There's no real urgency like there used to be. Quick fixes all the time. Now it's much more soft. Do you feel the same? Like they say sometimes the fruits really they don't ground you, but I don't believe that. I feel you've got practices that you can help you when you're fresh, because you do feel when you're eating lighter foods, you're like ascending. You're like, oh my God, everything's just incredible. It's like you're on a psychedelic journey, and people feel it's too intense at times, so they have to ground themselves with heavy foods. I'm like, you don't have to use heavy foods. Embrace it, let go, surrender, ground yourself in nature, put your bare feet on the ground. But there's other things you can do. But generally, if you just feel it and allow, do you ever get that like euphoric feeling, like you're on a high quite a lot on the fruit?
Absolutely. And you're right. Like, I don't really believe that they don't ground you. I think fruits definitely ground you. And being grounded, when you say grounded, being more connected with your source, which is the planet, right, is the ultimate euphoria, because that's where all the consciousness is, right? So euphoria is the ultimate, like not the ultimate, but like a very high level of consciousness. And if one were to be looking for consciousness, for sure they could, one, rely on the very body, which is coming from the planet, which grounds you. I've seen so many fruitarians that that instantly I actually did like a 8 hour, 9 hour long hike, and I did multiple of these while I was in Colombia as a fruitarian, bare feet, right?
Oh
And I
wow.
loved it. I loved it. Like just being so
Yeah.
connected to your to the planet Earth. Like this is planet Earth. Right? This very body is planet Earth.
Yeah.
And just to connect the two really is fantastic. Like talking about natural and unnatural, the more you run away from nature, the more it can cost you. An example is wearing heels. People who wear longer heels have the worst feet after
Yeah.
months or a period of time.
And posture.
So
Posture. The whole body's out of whack. Totally.
yeah, yeah. So which is very interesting because stay in alignment. I'm not saying go completely anti-technology. Like this conversation itself wouldn't have been possible, right? We must use the brilliance of science and technology that we have used, but we should not forget, like the more advancement that is happening externally, we should not forget the significance of going internally as well, right? Like all the advancements external is going on right now, that's fantastic, but we have forgotten that we need to advance this very mechanism, this piece of technology. If we could run both in harmony, the external and the internal world, I think we are going to have the best planet that we like. Nobody would even think of Mars. Right? We would be so in love with each other together here on planet Earth, working together in harmony because we are making sure both the dimensions of outside and inside are working in harmony. One question that I wanted to ask you, Toni, along the lines of instant gratification, I'm very curious, why do you think like people who go for instant gratification in the long run don't end up well or don't end up the way people who would go for delayed gratification would? What is it
We
about it?
constantly want that fix, isn't it? That constantly chasing. There's a
Compulsion.
difference. I question this, yeah, because what you've found in the studies is the level of, yeah, it's not even about success. It's success is defined, so it's subjective. But what I have found in my own life is the more I want these highs, the less I'm connected, the less it feels
Hmm.
like it's chaos, it's rushing around, it's getting through life at a super fast speed and not really being, it takes me out of this moment. Like who wants to be out of this? Everything that's happened has always been from the present in the moment. So when you want these instant gratification, you're chasing a drug that's it's a fake stimulus. It's not going to
Hmm.
keep us in this moment of true presence and consciousness. So seeing time and time again, even like say myself and I chase and wanting it now, I make decisions that have not been. I wouldn't, it had to happen. You could argue, you could say, yeah, I learned a lot through it, but why do I have to go through it the hard way? Like really, like why do I have to suffer so much? And I know there's a lot of breakthroughs and revelations through pain and suffering, but at a cost sometimes to where we block the heart, where we block, like, I'll be honest, that I because I wanted to help the world go vegan so fast, when I knew the atrocities, the injustice, I was out there speaking with such a because my energy is very it's masculine and it's fiery, but I went at it like at a cost of my health. Really, I was really speaking out there with fire, and I suppose at the time was, I thought I was sharing truth, but I was sharing a lot of like aggression. And when people would harm others and other beings, I started to dislike the world. And I wanted to change it so bad. I wanted it now at the cost of my health. My health, I didn't like people, I isolated myself. So now I'm much more patient. I wouldn't say I'm perfect. I definitely get hurt, but I pause before I react now. It's much more deep breaths, taking the present in and allowing it to unfold as it should naturally. I always remember divine time in surrender. My statement for 2020 and moving forward was just surrender, 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 and move through with much more grace, understanding, love, and presence. And that has given me, I get goosebumps because it did change a lot for me in being in this way, because the way I was going about life for me in that way, and I see in others, is very destructive, sabotaging. Like I said, my health, I would eat mindlessly, eat junk, eat crap. I would eat a lot of vegan junk foods at the cost. And then when you're eating these heavy foods, because it's all, like I said, everything's energy, my anger was amplified. Now my anger is not amplified, but it's channeled. I transmute it in more of, okay, what do I need to share with a loving way rather than an aggressive. For me, I knew within me, it came across as that's why I don't want to share so much in the exposing the cruelty. Like, I'm in dog rescue as well. I really want to focus more on the lighter, the why, the why it could be so good for us to be conscious of it, to be aware of it. But my hidden agenda is the animal. I want the animals to stop eating animals. I want the animals to be left alone. I have a huge affinity for animals, but I also want people to be kinder. That's the hidden. If you're healthier, if you're more conscious and more doing things you truly love and in alignment, we're going to get happy people. I want happy people around me, So that's everyone has an agenda, but my agenda I always recheck where's it coming from. It's coming from the heart. And I wouldn't have known this if I keep chasing instant gratification. If I keep chasing these quick fixes, like, I know it doesn't happen overnight. Like, it shouldn't want to expect it to happen overnight. Let things unravel as they should. And that's what served me. I don't know what that looks like for you. Have you experienced a similar with instant? Look at the world. Like, we want to numb out straight away. We want to watch TV. We want to get the pizza, and we just want to zone out. It's a drug. It's the biggest drug. It's the worst form of drug going. Processed foods, cooked foods.
Yes, yes, absolutely. I have had my fair share of trying things with instant gratification, and I failed miserably. I've had my fair share of starting many sort of projects and businesses, and my approach was just like you, where I was just going gung ho, straight to the point, and wanting people to, adopt my mindset, my way of things. And, previous projects was nothing related to what I'm doing right now, but, certain other things around e-commerce, whatnot. And I could see how it backfired, and it did not work out the way I wanted it to. And nor did I gain any wisdom, because one fantastic thing about delayed way of taking life is that delayed gratification actually makes you a lot more wiser, right? The process makes you so much more wiser that for sure that it takes time. Everything takes time. And also, instant gratification was also coming from the standpoint of wanting to be the only person who wants to rule this in that niche or in that project, right? Rather than a delayed way of things, or delayed way approach would be to inspire others, so we all could slowly but surely work on the same target, right? And this is literally what I'm trying to do with this project now, where I'm taking it slowly, but also wanting other people with me to become superstars. And because no more do I want the only me to be a superstar in the niche. So yeah, and
It
also
comes
I
from the
think
ego, doesn't it? The pressure and the ego. It comes with a high cost of that
absolutely,
overwhelm. I still have to remind myself even now of, because I want to share the voice. I want to share my voice and help others in a way that is from the heart, but at what cost to me as well. You know, we've got to recheck in.
yeah, yeah, absolutely, 100%. It comes from the ego. And also another aspect to instant gratification is our compulsive way of behavior, right? I truly believe that if you were to look at nature, and if you were to look at ourselves as well, both our nature and animals in nature, we all are compulsive, right? However, animals know when to, go down and stay put and be still. Like I have massively observed some of the birds that live close by over here. They are super compulsive in the morning and in the evening, during sunrise and sunset time. But when I observe them during the afternoon time, they are just sitting by themselves doing nothing. And when I see them, in my mind, I'm like, they're meditating. This is just a meditative way of living, right? Afternoon is when all the crows and the pigeons above in where I stay are always just meditating. But the thing about human beings is that we can be so unconscious at times, if we are not aware, that we can live a life fully compulsive 24/7, 365 days. And living in compulsion makes you instantly gratify things. Because again, we are coming from the standpoint of not being conscious. Once we are conscious, then we understand that things take time, and there's another way of doing it in a much more wiser way, which is a delayed gratified approach, which also gives time for you to meditate in the afternoons or whenever you want to meditate during the day. um, so compulsion is great. All the animals are compulsive, but they also know when not to be compulsive, and this is what
I'm
we need
glad.
to observe
Yeah, I'm glad you
from
said
them.
that, because there is definitely a positive to that at times. But yeah, because the world is set up 24 hours now, especially with the internet, it's like, where do
Yeah,
yeah, there's a lot of pressure on people to always be maximizing. And it's interesting because I'm hearing a lot of speakers now talk about slowing down. Like when in 2020 and I did the juice cleanse, I did less but gained more financially. The wisdom.
mm,
I think the key there, what you said, is wisdom. I'm glad you brought that up. And I actually look at my life now, my lifestyle, naturally, it's just been a given where I'm the same. In the mornings, I'm much more active and productive. I have my afternoons where I'm usually talking to my clients. They're much more ease, very like connection, or I'm reading, or I'm meditating. And then
mm.
later in the sunset, I've been only recently observed this. This is just new to me, that in the later afternoons I'm getting a good 2 hours of good amount of work, and then the evenings after 8 p.m. I slow right down. I'm bed by
Yeah,
9, half 9, 10, and I feel it's so, yeah, and it's so nourishing for my soul. And I'm
yeah,
glad you brought that up, when we can even just looking at nature for that, for the ones that are more where you feel there's no such thing as, that's why the balance is no such thing as balancing, and there'll be moments in your day where you feel cold. And I feel our natural set point is where we look to where the sun comes down. It's when we rest, when the sun comes up. I don't even eat like first thing in the morning anymore. I eat
yeah,
usually after my productivity. Once I've done something, again,
yeah,
naturally, that's what we've done. We eat when we only find fruit because we've moved. We've gone out and we've moved. So I only eat between 11 and 4, 5. I'm intermittent fasting, and I don't eat late. I don't eat late in the evening. It doesn't feel right for me. And that's been happening for a long time with that. But great observation on looking at what nature is doing.
Yeah, yeah, what nature is
And
doing. Because we come from nature, right? Like we are nature. So that's our ultimate teacher, going
yeah,
back to the
but look
source.
at I just want to say also what it looks like for people so they can understand that when we are always instant in how it looks like in your life for instant gratification is people, that's why they turn into drugs and these quick, like the takeaways. They're looking
Hmm.
when they're rushing around they've not even got time to learn to nourish their bodies, to take time for themselves. They're constantly in survival mode, so they're eating whatever they can in that survival, and then they're doing all these addictions, and you're seeing the alcohol coming at the weekend, they're seeing the parties happening, they're in a way to connect. That's the only way a lot of people are able to connect, and then it involves drinking and eating, and it's a really for me, I for a long time realized it's creating disharmony within your life and your body. And even when people don't even share, they're not happy. They're in quiet. I see a lot in quiet desperation. Like
Hmm.
people come to me when they're in desperation, and my goal is to not get it to that point where it's so like I see
Yeah.
so many of my great friends who are just grinding and they're very ambitious. I am. There's a level at where it costs, if it's costing your health and it's keeping your addictions alive, and then you just see the cycle. And then they're training
Yeah.
sometimes. They're training twice a day to make up. That's what I used to do. I used to be like, say, out at the weekends, I'd come and then I'd do 3-4 hours training the next few days to make up for the loss and all the eating I did and the drinking. Oh,
Yeah.
how how
Yeah.
yeah, how you can see now why it affects our mental health and the disconnection to us.
Yeah. Yeah. And that is such an unnatural way of living, because I've lived that life that you said as well, Tony. And this is the very interesting thing about human beings, is because many organisms, other organisms beside human beings, once they go out of the natural laws, once they run away from nature, they are dead. It's pretty much dead for them. But for us, we could go and live in Antarctica. Literally, quite literally, people live there right now. Some of the crazy people that are doing certain things over there, they literally live there, and we could still be fine. But the thing is, we forget that there are huge consequences to going against our natural laws, right? Like I can see even here, like living in the Middle East is also very unnatural. However, we have set up our lives this way because now it's winter. I'm actually very jealous of the way you're dressed up, because it's a desert where I live and I have to wear this because it's quite cold now. It's the winter time. And in the summertime, it gets insanely hot, insanely hot. And this is the reason why only after 8 p.m., 9 p.m. in the summer nights is when the life starts to flourish. When everybody gets out of their house, they go eat, do things at 10 p.m., 11 p.m. even, and then go to bed at 12, 1, wake up at 5, 6, go to work. This is how the lifestyle is set up over here. And this is a very unnatural way. And sure, people are surviving here, but at huge consequences, huge costs to their life. And if one was to observe, and I'm sure you already know this, if one were to ask, okay, where is the natural place to live? It's the tropics. There is no doubt about being in the tropics, because you get almost 12 hours of day, 12 hours of night, and things are
It's
there's
consistent.
abundance of food. Yeah.
It's just consistent. Like it's always the same. It's warm. Yeah, we have more rain sometimes, but it's warm. I like that consistency.
Yeah.
Yeah, people. It's a natural. It's natural. It's the way
It's
we
natural.
don't want
Yeah.
to be bombarded with loads of clothes and yeah, and it keeps my patterns. It's not chaotic. I know I get up like you, and you were saying about the alarm. Like I was going on an alarm for years, even when I didn't need to,
Yeah.
unless I have some early morning calls. But now it's rare. I try to keep them more daytimes. But mornings are for me my sacred time. I've set up my lifestyle. There was one big thing I knew when I felt in alignment is not having an alarm clock and just letting that go, getting up. But I
Yes.
still get up with the sun naturally.
Yeah. Yeah. That's amazing. That's fantastic. Last thing that I want to ask you, Toni, that was great. Last thing that I'll ask you, and then maybe we could start to wrap this up, is I checked out your profile, and one thing I could see is that, Toni, you are like, your body shape is fantastic right now. Like the way you have been, maintaining your body, and yeah, your whole physique, you're so much more aesthetic from what you were to what you are now. And there's a lot of misconception, or there are a lot of opinions out there that say that you get so skinny and this and that, and there's nothing but just skin and bones, and that's definitely not you. Definitely not you. So please share your secret. What is it that's keeping you so fabulously in shape?
You're too kind. I'll speak to you more. Thanks. That was something I've been very conscious of. So I just know that I'm eating a varied, simple, but varied, as in the sense of variety over time. I do not count my calories. I do a lot of mono meals. I'm intermittent fasting. So one could argue, wow, you eat a lot of fruit, and you're intermittent fasting, you could lose loads of weight. But you know what? Your body adjusts when you start to, say, be in tune with your body. I just know when, like, my menstrual cycle, and I'm releasing one, I think tonight or tomorrow, a video on the menstrual phases of a female, because I don't talk about it enough, I feel. But for women, like, we have cycles that are different. Like, we have to understand and having this awareness and knowing when, like, I increase my calories now before I come onto my period, and some would feel guilty for that. Back at my old self would be like, oh, I've eaten like way too much, but I'm choosing the right foods, and I know it's only temporary because I've listened to what my body needs. And if you can start to be in tune more, and I was doing that through writing, I journal all the time. I'm really in tune with my body more than I ever have. And there'll be periods of the month where I eat a lot less. Like, I'll eat 1 or 2 meals, just mono fruit meals. But there'll be times I'll have, like, I've just finished a huge bowl of blueberries and chocolate carob sauce
Nice.
with nuts and cashews. And, some people would say, oh, that's too much combination. But my digestion's flawless now, I would say. I handle it very well. And I know it's raw foods. It's good. I have I don't feel guilty. There's no guilt anymore.
I'm so sorry what happened over there, but I'm still very curious to know your secret. I know it's fruit, but for the people that will watch.
It's fruit and working out. If you want to strongly, as you get older, I'm not a young spring chicken anymore. So I'm very, very aware of I'm deteriorating as we get older. But we don't have to accept that. If we keep agile, keep moving the body. I don't do a lot like I used compared to what I used to do. And at the cost, like I say, it came, I may have had phases of where it was, I had very similar physique to now. But now it's much more sustainable. It's easy. It's simple. Like, I recover quicker. I feel good. I'm getting really great gains in the gym now. And I'm doing a bit of a shred. And the shred is not even, like, I'm not full on out killing myself. I don't work like that anymore. I go, if I'm in the mood to really push myself, I'll push myself, but the focus is to go, keep consistent, just be there, just moving my body every single day. And I do love that I'm still strong. I'm getting stronger, and I'm using, like, what everyone would say, fruit, like hardly any protein. Like, people are so... like, they can't comprehend, like, you have a low protein diet. I mean, I was in that mindset many years ago because I've been in fitness. You have protein in every single meal. I eat 2 meals a day now, and it's an abundance. Like, sometimes I can really eat a lot, and people, like, I had a client recently, and it's like, you can eat a lot, Toni. Like such a tiny frame, because people always question me on my, what size are you? Because I'm quite deceiving. Some people think I'm really tall, and I'm not. I'm like when they're shocked because my client was like, I thought you was in like the 5'8", 5'9". I was like, I'm 5'5". I'm quite
Right.
short, and I don't weigh myself, but I did just for those that were, because now I want people to see that you can be healthy, look healthy without, like you were saying, like withering away. So 100, I'm about 110 pounds, and then I'm 14.5% body fat, lowest I've ever been. If I don't want to get under 40, the only way because I'm measuring my body fat is just showing people numbers to show that you can be healthy as a raw vegan, as a fruit, I'm fruit based vegan. So I don't want to get under 14% because I see of it. I want to make it sustainable. I want to be healthy, and I don't want to lose. They say you can, whether you can lose your periods. Even now I'm always like, is that really true? If you get, I'm always questioning, like as a truth seeker. But for me, I'm very comfortable where I am. I'm just now doing it for more of like aesthetic, I would say, for showing what's possible. But I'm not interested. People are asking, oh, why don't you go into bodybuilding, even at the gym, get into bodybuilding and do bodybuilding workouts. But it doesn't, I like to be light. I like the slim. I don't want the focus is, like I say, sustainability is my health. And I have other missions, other projects, like keeping my body agile and lean is great, but it's quite effortless now. Like it doesn't, like I know this is why I love this feeling, knowing that I can get up whenever I want. I don't get the energy slumps. Like I could go to the gym now and work out, feel good. I don't have those heavy, like as you do sometimes, with the standard diet, even a vegan diet. I feel constantly like always, any opportunity I can go and, probably the same, I can go and do a run, I can work out, and I hardly run. I hardly do any cardio. I did this morning, I ran around the dam, and I haven't run around the dam for months. And that's when you know you're on the right diet, when it's effortless. Like I ran around that dam like I'd always been a runner. And
Right.
I haven't run for
Yeah.
months and months. 5 kilometers, and I did it maybe in 20 minutes, and it
Yeah.
was easy for me. So that's when I'm like, so I don't need to do a lot of cardio. I'm still working the heart in the gym. For me, the resistance training is very important for our muscles and to get that shape. So if you're worried for those not wanting to get too skinny. I know for many, my clients always come for me for weight loss, but for those that are worrying about losing too much weight, it balances out. Once you get in tune, if you can really start to be more intuitive with your lifestyle and you work out, you're gonna be thriving and looking and feeling good. So nobody ever tells me I'm too skinny. You
Yeah,
couldn't
you're definitely
put me in
not.
that category, because I've got
Yeah.
the muscle mass, I've got the strength as well.
Awesome. Yeah. Yeah, for sure, dude. Like, absolutely. And one thing I wanted to say, there was something that you said in between. I don't remember, but I wanted to say that, yeah, the mono meals. Yeah, you said that you like to mono meal, and absolutely. And I just wanted to say that the breakfast that I had today was just this big of a cantaloupe. Oh, yes. You said in between that people actually look at you and they say, "Oh, Toni, you eat a lot." And the same has happened with me as well. I just feel
Yeah,
like my stomach bag has just expanded now. And it digests so quickly. It's fantastic.
yeah,
Like, this is the superior fuel for your body. And today I ate a cantaloupe like this big and like that. And it's amazing because, one, I know it is grown in the region of Khatif, which is just 40 kilometers from here, right? And these guys are in season, and this is the best cantaloupe I've ever had in my life. They are so creamy, so juicy, so delicious. And I just ate that whole thing by myself, and I was completely fine, and I loved it. And So yeah, I just wanted to share that. And the second thing is, you're absolutely right about losing weight, because I, I'll be frank, I lost a lot of weight as well. But you know what's interesting, Tony? I did not lose not even a drop of muscle. I had some muscle, like when I was, working out before on previous diet as well. So I had a bit of muscle. I did not lose even a bit of muscle, but all I lost was the unnecessary stuff that was not needed in my body.
Yeah,
All the
the
fluids,
waste.
yeah, the waste, the fat. And let's be honest, like some fat from like 10 to even 15% is healthy, right? Like from 0 to 15% to a certain degree is healthy. After that, it's all unnecessary. And when you eat the right thing for yourself, the truth shows up. So when people are like, psyching out, oh, I'm getting too skinny and this and that, that means they actually were skinny by eating
Yeah,
fruits is showing them the real self, that hey, you did not move at all in your whole life. All you did was eat the wrong food, and now suddenly when you ate the right food, the right food will show you your right self that was hiding beneath all that blanket of fat.
yeah.
So yeah, you're absolutely right.
But it's worth it. Like when you come away from, I know Kev, who I interviewed, he did 160 days of watermelon. He lost a lot of waste. He calls it waste, which it is. That's what it is. When you're on the fruit,
Yeah,
you're getting rid of all that accumulated pressure that's on your joints, that's on your organs. When you release that, you can breathe. You can have oxygenated blood, and then you refuel, restart, reset. And this is why the trainings, like, it doesn't have to be that you get in, because some people say, will I get weaker? And you're not. If anything, what I'm seeing, a pattern, people are getting stronger, and we're showing. And that's what I wanted to, because I know naturally females are averse to the resistance training. Like, they think they're going to get bulky, but no, you get this nice,
no, yeah,
slim, shaped physique. Like, when I go to the gym, yeah, I pump and I can see my veins, and I feel like sometimes I'm like, ooh, it's a bit it's like I've really like pumped out, but it's temporary. I come back home, and some people wouldn't even think, like, it depends on what I wear. It's interesting. I had a friend. I wore something the other day, and he just said I just look slim. It was a nice shape, but as soon as I put the bikini on, it was like, I didn't realize how defined you were. Like, and it's not until, like, if I'm lifting something, for me, I want to be able to, because I lift dogs all the time. We've gone to the vet and the rescue work, so I need to be strong. But I do like that definition, because I don't want to be a skinny vegan, a skinny raw vegan. So
yeah,
it's been a conscious. I've never, I would say, I've never been skinny. Where I've lost too much weight, because I've always been quite consistent with my training. So yeah, it doesn't have to become that if you don't want to. So yeah, get the right fuel, and get the resistance training in. Even just compound exercises, start with those. I mean, I say I do a lot less. You don't have to kill yourself at the gym. You
yeah,
naturally just get.
absolutely,
It's so easy to get shapely. Like, you can come. Like,
yeah,
I've had periods. I don't feel my best when I do it, because I like it for my mindset, mental toughness. It really, with the raw foods, it's like you're like supercharged. But I like to keep consistent. But when I had a few weeks off, I got into it super fast. Like, my pull ups, like, I remember, in the days when you'd eat a heavy standard diet, it'd take you weeks to get back into the gym, like, and
mm,
see any
yeah,
results. Take months sometimes. Now it's instant. I feel like within the week, if that, I'm pumped. It's even, yeah. I go usually straight to what I'd left, and
mm,
sometimes I could even be a lot stronger. Like, I maybe had 3 days off. That's when I know not overdoing it, because you feel like you've got these superpowers. You want to train all the time. Do you feel like that? You want to, like, when you get that buzz, and I know, for me, I want to train consistently, but I'm also very conscious of the rest period is very crucial. So, do you
yeah.
train often? Then are you consistent? Because you enjoy your training, don't you? You athlete
Yes,
pretty much, aren't
yes,
you?
I do. Yeah, for sure. I actually forgot. One second. I forgot. while I was fixing it, I forgot my AirPods. I don't want it to be. You weren't hearing yourself twice, right?
No, I didn't. No, really
Okay,
bad.
cool. Yes, yes, I am working out as well. You're right, because for sure I wanted to keep myself in shape, and something in me intuitively was like, if I were to not work out, if because not being able to move, not being able to put your body into a bit of resistance mode is unnatural. I just felt that intuitively, because even if you were to look thousands of years ago, people were doing something, being in the forest. Like men were just running and like hunting, whatnot. Even women were hunting, I'm sure. And then
Mm,
also like just being able to work in, where you are in the jungle, farming or whatever, requires muscle.
mm.
So, sure, not all of us, or the majority of us in affluent parts of the world, do not have access to farms that we could work on, because, I went to volunteer in certain places and worked with farmers. Farmers are usually like buffed, big, and like big hands and all of that. And and they don't go to the gym. They don't do calisthenics. They
Yeah,
don't do nothing. They just do farm work. They just live by the nature. And soon I understood that naturally, like, you are supposed to move, right? Not being able to move is just going to make you look like, what people think only fruitarians look like, which is just skin and bones. You could be skin and bones um, by not moving at all. And if you're not skin and bones and you're not eating fruit, then most probably chances are that is just waste, that is just
yeah,
lying around your body, that stops you from doing anything productive. Like, I remember long time ago being on this diet, and before getting into any sort of training or athletics, I used to just cannot I just couldn't run. I couldn't do any pull-ups, nothing, right? And I was more younger then, so I should be more like,
yeah,
more full of life, like I should be able to do more. But that wasn't the case. But then if you look at kids these days, that 3-year-old, 4-year-old, they can literally pull themselves up. If you leave them on like a park or something, they can literally pull
yeah,
themselves up. And then from there we start to get domesticated. The way we domesticate. So the the reason why humans domesticate animals I believe that is because we domesticate ourselves from day one,
mm. You're right.
right?
Yeah,
Absolutely. We love to like eat wrong. We love to hear things wrong. We love to behave unnaturally, and everything that's unnatural is domestication, right? And we have put on that to ourselves. So obviously, we want to do that to other parts as well, other organisms too. So yes, I do work out. Now it has become more of I've gone more into calisthenics, because during traveling, one thing I've realized is that not everywhere can I look for gyms. And if I'm traveling and if I cannot look for gyms, then it's a good excuse. So
yeah,
calisthenics is a great way for me to be able to work out even without gym. So now I'm like, oh wait, I have become a gym. No matter where I go, I can still work out, because
yeah,
all I need is body
yeah,
weight.
yeah. I love calisthenics. Yeah, I do incorporate that regularly. Yeah, I love pull-ups. Though. I love you can find anything somewhere. There's bars everywhere in parks and things.
Yeah,
Yeah, press ups, sit ups, even squats. Yeah, there's so much you can do without even going to the gym. Yeah, I used to do that a
yeah,
lot. I always keep it consistent. Well, just stay moving, putting some form of resistance onto the body, and for the
yeah,
mind, not just for the physical aspect. But yeah, I get that. I get the buzz, but it's like I say, you'd have to go for hours. It's
mm,
you get results super fast, and that's why I love it. And like with the intermittent fasting, it's a tool I use, especially for clients that are new or coming into this lifestyle, like raw vegan, because if you transition, because some people again that want that instant, gratification. So just if they get a snippet of the results, the intermittent fasting, because it releases
mm,
after 16 hours, it releases human growth hormone. So that's why you see in the definition super fast, keeps you lean. So instead of injecting it like what bodybuilders would do with the synthetic version, we're getting it naturally released after 16 hours of fasting. And that's what keeps me lean. So I
Wow.
can go long lengths of time without even going to the gym. But that's why I get so pumped when I'm there. I see like the definition so quickly. I don't have to like do an awful lot of exercises. So I love this lifestyle, and then you've got the right fuel for your body, where you're going to get the energy and the right nutrition, nutrient dense foods that's going to oxygenate the body. It's a win-win. And I've gone off on a little bit with the intermittent fasting. It's just because it's another. I feel like I was saying in nature, what you would do is fast. So why not bring something in that it can be sustainable for people. You can just do it when you're sick, but you can do it in your protocol. And I do have a free ebook with my tools that will maximize people's success, because I know still people fall into that trap of instant. It's still prevalent, but
Sure. Yeah.
they can see great results, and if that gives them that little snippet until they connect of why are we rushing? We don't need to kill ourselves. We don't need. This is a lifestyle that we can enjoy this sacred journey. I'm always having to remind even myself, like I say before, what we were saying earlier is having that. We want to lay the message, what we want to share, the growth we want to see in the business. Just bring it back down to the ultimate vision. And I watched. Did you know Sam Ovens, who's got school? I've got a school membership. He's really interesting, and he was talking about perfection. We're quite averse to the word perfection. When we think of that word, most of us are like, I don't want to be perfect. That's what's got us into trouble all the time. But perfection is growth. Perfection's about expansion. Again, it's that reframe. And he was talking about how Google and Steve Jobs of Google wanted to be the only search engine, the best and the most, common. They wanted to be the number one search engine in the world. And everyone back years ago would be like, that's impossible. Like, look at Steve Jobs with the computers, the only computers that were what people were using was scientists, and they were $1 million, and they were huge, and now he wanted that accessible to everyone. So I go about my life now, like I have that mission. It's a huge mission, help the world go raw vegan. That is the goal. Help the world go raw vegan. But what a grand mission and perfection. But if I only get to where, I leave this earth with half of the world, like going raw vegan, or even I've made some. So the goal is to consistently be growing and evolving, but not with the pressure, but just alignment, and keep following your bliss every day. Go towards that bliss. And when we feel like we're suffering, there's challenges, and it feels restrictive or resistant, just come back to the self. Just come back to what is really what we're doing here. What's our mission? Our mission doesn't happen to be overnight. It's the long term. So that's what keeps me grounded and on this path, and why I'm even raw vegan now. Who knows what's next? And I think I know I'll never. And that's the difference. You see people that stay on this lifestyle because they see the vision. They've got a vision bigger than themselves. And for me, it's a no-brainer. If I want to be my best, at my peak, optimal, then I'm looking for perfection. That's the only way to perfection, is to keep growing and growing in with the foods that are designed for us.
Wow. Yeah. Well said. Well said. Something that you brought up, which is very curious, Toni. That's a grand vision to make the whole world raw vegan. I'm very curious, and I think I also read this statement in your picture when you had like a watermelon, and the watermelon, I think that was a watermelon you broke by hand and a stone or something, right?
A stick.
So a stick, yeah. So that was very interesting. But very curious to know, what is in your mind as a strategy to make the whole world raw vegan, or even half the world raw vegan?
Every day I just share my truth. I'm in integrity to myself every day. Because energetically, it's gonna vibrate. It's gonna amplify the more I keep being in my truth. It's gonna happen. It's inevitable. You've heard about the monkey experiment, frequencies. Like there's monkeys on the islands. Like one monkey did this certain way of opening a coconut. The other islands of monkeys started to do the same. No one told them to do it, just energetically.
Wow.
When we raise the frequency, like you look into all these, when you look at quantum physics and the frequencies, that's why your frequency is the most important thing you can focus on. And then if you look at, like, say, the foods, the highest frequency of the foods is fruit, is these light codes. So for me, it's just a given. It's naturally going to happen. The more I raise my vibration, the more I speak my truth. Like, don't get me wrong, there are times I want to hide away. I want to be I want to go somewhere in the hut, in the jungle, and just disappear, take everything away. But I'm destined for more. And I don't,
Wow.
I may as well just die. Why am I here? Why? This is quite extreme. When I used to talk about, I've never opened up this ever to anybody, except for a couple of relationships that I was in the past. But I did say, I'm like, if I don't speak my truth, then I don't, what is the point of me being here? No matter how much money I've got in the bank, no matter what I have to do in order to speak my truth, I may as well not be here. And that's when I knew I'm a little bit different. Why I know I should, like, if I had to go back to, like, say, just example, in England, and go back to just doing what I used to do, I don't see any point of me being here. That's how strong I feel in my message, in my truth. Like, no matter how long it takes, whatever, for me, even just having these conversations, and somebody just takes a little piece of information that can just shift. Because I've heard, like, what you've even shared in this call today is shifted some, like, I've got some incredible downloads from what you've shared and what's inspired me. So that's what, like, these conversations, this is what makes life so enriching and fulfilling. So for me, I know I'm on the right path. That's when you know, and it's I'll do whatever it takes, and in however long it takes. So that's the way I want to live my life every day. So I don't care how long it takes. It's going to have a ripple effect, no matter what. That's why the consciousness now, what's happened has happened because it happened. Now I believe, true doubt, deep in my heart, that things needed to be shifted. The consciousness is bigger now. It's like people are coming into this lifestyle. It's been received. Like, I've been more received now than ever. Sharing this message, sharing veganism. Like, how long that's taken for people. Like, some of my old friends. Like, I'm getting messages now from old friends saying, I'm vegan. I'm like, what? Like, incredible, and I've ate more fruit today and not just an apple. And seeing huge shifts, and it's exciting times. And that's when I know, even if it's not in my lifetime, that it's going to be, it's passed on. It's going to be passed on. The message is passed on. And I truly know in my heart that we need to get back to simplicity, back to basics, get back to kindness. And kindness starts with our plate. It starts with what we're eating, because we are what we eat. It's our makeup. It's who we become, and what how we move through our day. If we're moving, if we're eating, I've witnessed it myself and see with others. Like, who are you have you ever seen a vegan or raw vegan serial killer, or or somebody that is hurting? Don't get me wrong. There's people even in the movement that maybe react in a non-positive, not so nice ways. ego's going to come in. I'm going to not be received sometimes as I would like it to be, or maybe not react from the heart. I'll react through the ego. But if I've got this consciousness every day, this mindfulness, I'm always going to be expanding out to the best version, and collectively I'm going to be changing the consciousness. It's a given. You know, I see it all the time. We don't even need to do. That's why we don't need to take on the world. That's what I'm saying to you. Like, it to some people, that's like, oh, I don't need to do that. All I need to do is what's here, right here within. And it's just energetically, it's gonna ripple.
Yeah. Wow. Well said. Yeah. Absolutely. And like you said, like, speak the truth. If not, what else, right? And all you have to focus on speaking the truth. Everything else will take care of itself. Like, all we need to do here, and I come from the same standpoint as well. Like, what I have in me, the truth in me, I just want to bring it out there to the world, right? And all I want to focus on is just that, and I want to do that well. Everything else, how many people it reaches out to, whatever happens, is somebody else's job, somebody the platform's job, or somebody's job, or people who are receiving it. But my job is to just speak the truth and just stay at it and stay committed to it. So yeah, absolutely. Well said. Cool.
Amazing.
Awesome. And where, as we wrap this up, it was fantastic to speak to you. First of all, it's great. And you are like, your frequency is fabulous. Toni, where can people find you?
Rawlicious.com is a lot of information, some offerings there. I have a free ebook as well. But everything's on there. But I'm on Instagram and Facebook and YouTube. Yeah. So, and yourself, you're on YouTube, Instagram. Are you on Facebook as well?
No, I'm not doing so much on Facebook, but yes, I'm on YouTube. That's where predominantly I'm focusing most of my time. It's just Raw Fruitarian Fahad. So Raw Fruitarian Fahad on YouTube, and dabbling a bit on Instagram with the same Raw Fruitarian name.
Yeah, I've seen your page. It's amazing. Yeah, I saw your interviews as well. Wow, incredible. You're on it. You're on fire. I love it.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, absolutely.
Amazing.
Absolutely. And dude, you came up with an app, right? I saw an app. What's happening there?
It's
Do you want to share a bit about it?
So Sam, yeah, it's so they've created the app itself. I was looking at so many different app creations, and school seems the most more user friendly for the interface is amazing. Yeah, so I've got that. That's just been just launched. So yeah, we've got about 23 members in there. So it's got the community aspect to it as well. So it's got all the courses. The courses come under, like, I've got recipes, workouts, meditations. I'm doing breath work. I'm going to be offering, sharing a lot of like the ceremonies that I'll be doing offline, so they can see, and so much more. So the vision for the Rawlicious app is to be the biggest go-to place for all raw foods. You know, I'll be bringing in guest speakers, all in one place. Just it's tidy. There's no noise. Like a lot of the social media, there's a lot of noise. I want it to be an all in one place where no one's distracted. It's a focus. They go to what they feel called to go into, whatever they're in resonance to. So if it's the workouts, you know, or the meditations, or the recipes. I didn't want to go into more of the recipes, but I do feel it helps people, especially the transition. People want to see, you know, how easy it is, like, to create things, you know. So I want I've got creative recipes in there for the ones that love to create. I'm very simple, but I've expanded that creativity. But I would rather have a mono meal or just something so simple. And even some of the recipes are so easy to make as well. So I've got a mix. So they're quite diverse in there. But there'll be challenges as well. Like I'll be doing the fruit challenges. We'll call them fruit feasts and raw vegan feasts. So to help people, they love these challenges, don't they? It's motivating. And I've done plenty of them myself, and it helps. And like the juice cleansing, so we'll be doing lots of those, and I announce them. So lots of activity going on. It's great. I
Awesome.
love it. Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
excited for
yeah, and
where
I'm
it's
sure, I
going.
have no doubt. Yeah, I have no doubt that this place is going to be the go-to place for whatever that people want raw, like raw recipes and all of that. So yeah, dude, obviously,
Yeah,
let's go.
thank you. Thank you so
Yeah.
much.